Soul Simmers, and welcome to a brand new video. Today we're doing a little speed build. I actually recorded this build over multiple streams. It wasn't just one stream. I think I spent about 3 streams on this build. I did that over on twitch.tv/Rosannatxt. I'll make sure that the link to that is also in the description, because over there we're actually doing this really fun build challenge where I'm doing what I call 100 real to Sims builds. It's basically this idea that I see a lot of people do the 100 baby challenge in The Sims, but I've tried it. It's actually on this YouTube channel in case you want to check it out. It's like a playlist somewhere linked on the channel. I couldn't get past 7 babies. It was absolutely terrible. I don't think that challenge was made for me. I love Sims gameplay. I'm doing obviously my own Pack Legacy challenge here and then also Berry challenge on Twitch, but I don't know, the 100 baby challenge just drove me mad. Having small kids and like the only thing that you're doing is kind of like getting the skills up, aging them up, and then doing that time and time again. It wasn't for me, but I was like, I am really into Sims building, so why not try a 100 build challenge? So I got myself thinking, what can I do to get myself creative or like continue to enjoy building for 100 builds in a row? And I came up with this idea, which is called the 100 real to Sims builds, where I basically take real life floor plans, so like from the internet or from TV shows or whatever. It was kind of inspired by me building my own house. I'll make sure to also link that in the description because it's also a YouTube video here on the channel. But basically I recreated my own house in The Sims and I was like, what if I continue to do that with floor plans that I find on the internet or like TV shows or I don't know, like basically anything goes. So if someone has seen a build or like a house or something while they were on holiday and took some pictures, they can also share it. I actually, in my Discord community, we have a channel where people can post their ideas. And the idea is that we take those and then we recreate them in The Sims. And the reason I find this challenge so much fun is because obviously not every build was made for The Sims. So sometimes you actually struggle quite a lot with how can you recreate this with the tools available in The Sims. Something that you currently see here in the video is that I'm trying to recreate this chimney that has like a part where it's wider and then it narrows down. And I've seen other creators do this, but I just couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out how, like which roof texture to use so that it then would match the chimney. So kind of like stuff like that makes it really interesting to do a challenge like this. And also I think is the reason why I think I could keep up for 100 builds, because obviously it's a lot of builds. 100 builds in The Sims takes quite a lot of time. I think after playing The Sims for 3 years, a lot, like about 2,500 hours, 3,000 hours, something like that. I may have done maybe 200 builds in total, and I created my own save file, so that took a lot of building. So I definitely committed to something. This house was actually number 4. The first house we did was relatively small, and then we did 2 really big houses, so that took like a long time. They're all up on my gallery. I'll also make sure to link my gallery idea down below, but it's basically the same name as I have here on YouTube. But those were really big, and they took me, I think, like 3 weeks, and I streamed 3 times a week. And I worked on it for 2 streams a week, I think, so that's like 6 hours a week of building. Obviously, I get distracted a lot on stream, and we tend to chat and everything, but this was number 4, and I started this challenge in January, so there's a long way to go, but so far I'm really enjoying it. I'll make sure to also put the link to the original floor plan of this house in the description, but the reason we picked this one is because it was slightly smaller, and also the original picture, it just looked like it was meant to be a Sims build. Like, I think the original picture was computer generated as well. I think it came off one of those websites that has like floor plans that you can basically request your realtor, or I don't know what it's called in English, but like to build for you. So it's not actually an existing house. It's kind of like one of those things where you can request to be built for you. But one thing that really caught my attention is the thing that I'm also recreating now in the front yard is kind of like the way that they laid out the planter boxes and stuff. So the front yard is actually really big. Like there's a lot of space there. And I don't know, it just drew my attention. It's like, oh, that looks like a lot of fun. Also with like the round pieces, I thought that looks kind of dynamic, and I thought it might be nice to recreate that in The Sims. I did struggle with it so much. It was so hard to recreate this. I think eventually we all like agreed, me and the chat, like the people hanging out on the stream, that it would be nice to kind of take creative liberty at some point. So you also saw me do that with the chimney. Like I ended up adjusting the design because sometimes something in The Sims just doesn't really work. But at the same time, it is fun to at least challenge yourself to kind of try and see if you can do it, see if you can recreate it as close as possible. And I think what I was mainly struggling with here is like the inner piece of this planter box thingy was like grass, and then the outer piece was dirt. And I really wanted to recreate that piece because I thought it might be nice that if I kind of left the dirt empty, you would be able to use that if you ever download this house to then kind of like maybe use it for gardening or something. I thought that might be cute. Have some apple trees or pear trees or stuff, like actually have that area be functional, and then use the grass part for, I don't know, just some decoration and plants. But the struggle with that is that we don't actually have dirt tiles, but we do have grass tiles. So I tried to like first recreate it with just tiles, figured out that that didn't really work. Then I tried to recreate it with the terrain paint, as you see me doing here, and I felt like, no, that's not really the look I want to go for. I don't think that works. I think we end up changing it or like adding a platform to the green part, like the grass part. That made such a big difference because it really gave it that sort of dynamic that it needs. You see me do that here, like at the platform. I think that made a really big difference, and it was exactly what it needed, even though in the original build, actually the planter box was all one height and it just had this sort of fencing in between. But this was one of those times where we decided to sort of take the creative liberty to change it. And then here you see me struggle with just the concept of round walls or like round fencing in The Sims. If you use floor tiles, it doesn't always work and it tends to look a bit ugly. I was luckily able to hide it with terrain paint, and I think if you didn't see me just do the terrain paint, I don't think you would have noticed that it was even there. Like, I hid it quite well and there's enough going on around the build that you don't really see it, but stuff like that, I really would hope that somewhere soon or like at one point in the future, they're actually gonna fix the round walls, because I also find myself kind of staying away from building with round walls in The Sims. Because it's such a pain. I don't like it. It always glitches. It doesn't look good. Like Windows glitch. If you put the walls half down, it looks a little bit silly. So I really wish that they would fix that. But yeah, you saw me struggle with that a little bit. And here we're actually trying to decide on some landscaping. I didn't want to go overboard with all of the flowers that I use. I kind of wanted to keep it a little bit simple. I think at this point I start to realize, oh, that planter box is actually kind of large. So if I completely fill it with plants, that's probably not gonna work. It's not gonna look good. And it's at moments like this that I'm really glad that I'm doing the building process on stream, because I think it's one of the most fun things of collaborating with the people that are watching your channel. So if that is something that you're interested on, feel free to join the streams. I usually stream on Monday night, Friday night, and Wednesday afternoon, CET time, so European time. I'll also make sure to link the times down below so you actually can see that too. But what I really love is that I don't have to come up with all of the ideas myself. Like when I feel stuck, and I know that this is a thing that a lot of Sims builders experience from time to time, is you're just stuck on this one area. You just can't seem to figure out what you want to do. And it is just so nice to have people hang around in the chat and then like kind of collaboratively figure out what you want to do. Because that way you kind of get out of that creative challenge. And in this case, we decided to put a birth bath and it just looked really good. And I really like the idea. This is also where you see me starting to move towards the back of the build. As I told before, we were going off like an actual floor plan. So I was also trying to place the windows in a way that it made sense compared to like where the rooms would go in the house. I think I end up changing the rooms the windows in the middle because it was a bathroom and those two windows were way too big for like even to be a shower or bathtub to be there. And this is also where I noticed that there was actually a path going around on both sides of the house. There weren't any pictures or things on the floor plan that resembled anything about the backyard. I assumed there would be one, but it didn't show anything. So I kind of just decided to wing it and figure out something myself, like a fun layout. And I did this kind of mowed lawn look, which I think I saw it somewhere on Pinterest once, or like someone recreated it and I was like, oh my God, that is so cute and so smart. And I had never actually done it until now. But I really liked the look of it. And I'll decorate the backyard a bit more in a bit. I think there are some really fun elements to the backyard. Again, ideas from people on stream that I just ran with and tried to do in the backyard as well. And this is where I'm trying to recreate that floor plan. Something that I've noticed in recreating real life floor plans in The Sims is that very, very often you see that houses have a hallway, like a very tiny hallway, which I think makes sense. Like the part where I'm working now with the bathroom and like the doors, originally on the floor plan, I'm not sure if I left it in the edit of this video, but you'll see me try and recreate that small little hallway. There was actually like, it was kind of closed off and then there was a singular door into that hallway with 3 doors. And I think in real life, it makes a lot of sense to have a hallway like that and like close off the 3 doors that you can see. But in The Sims, having really tiny hallways generally just doesn't look that good. Like, it looks little bit silly, it looks a little bit odd. I think I actually cut it out of this video because, well, I didn't end up keeping it. So again, it's one of those things where I took a real floor plan as inspiration, but then I took the creative liberty of changing it wherever I felt like it needed changing. I'm also trying to figure out a layout for the bedroom here. And I do also end up changing this because I like to think about playability of my builds whenever I'm building, or at least like try to take in consideration that some people might download this and that if they play in it, they want to have a pleasant experience. So if you play with the walls down, I think this is the moment that I'm actually realizing that you wouldn't see any of the wardrobe. And like, I made this really nice sort of compartmentalized wardrobe, like where everything was open. And it was like really this nice modular wardrobe concept, but it didn't really work because as soon as you put the walls half down, you wouldn't see it anymore. So I felt like, what if we swap it around and actually do that and like have the windows in between, because originally we had 2 mirrors. And I really like the look of it, although you might see this sometimes during the video. I think the cabinets come from Dream Home Decorator and they're really broken. So every time you paint the wall behind one of those cabinets, or if you actually leave the lot and come back, the whole wardrobe was messed up. Like, items were missing, parts of the wardrobes were missing. Like, the modular furniture it works, but it also is kind of broken. So if you do end up downloading this build and you find yourself that half of that wardrobe that you see me building here is gone, I can't help it. I literally replaced it, I think 6 times during the building process of this house, and it kept disappearing. And it was so silly because even at one point I actually painted the walls. So I figured, oh, it must have been something with me, like BB move objects, and then it just interfered or something. But then later on, it literally just disappeared whenever I was working on completely different rooms. And it was just because I took a break and like I loaded out of the game and back in, and then it was gone. So yeah, if you do end up downloading this build and there are some missing items, you know what happened there. Same with the round rooms. I really hope that at one point they fix that. At this point, I'm trying to figure out as well what I want to do with the layout of the room, because there was this kind of awkward space between the bed and the wardrobe. And I figured I would definitely want to put something there, but again, I needed help from chat. You see me kind of like putting the TV on a TV stand and then sizing it down so I could actually flip it towards the bed, because otherwise the TV would actually be facing the wardrobe, and this way it's actually flipped towards the bed, but the cabinet it's on, it's actually flipped towards the wardrobe. So that's like one of those neat little build hacks that I love to use. You do need the tool mod for it. I'll make sure there's like 2 main building mods that I use that you'll see me using in this video. One is Better Build By from Twisted Mexi and the other is Tool from Twisted Mexi. I'll make sure to link both of them down below. I highly recommend downloading both of them if you love to build in The Sims, especially the Better Build By one. I cannot live without it. You see me extend the menu at one point. I think if you press 1, or maybe like the tilde key on your keyboard, it actually extends the build by menu. So especially if you're building with a lot of CC, that is an absolute godsend. Like, it helps so much with getting an overview or like trying to find the items. It's kind of like the mod that a lot of people use in Cast to have more columns, especially if you're playing on a bigger monitor rather than a laptop. It fits so easily. So that's kind of like, it's so clutch. So make sure to download that mod in case you want to play with mods that are good for builders. And fun fact here is that I was trying to figure out the windows and the placement, which window would fit with having a shower in that specific corner, because I felt like every window was a little bit too low and it didn't make much sense to have a shower that was interfering with the window. Like, in real life, that would look very odd and you would probably never do it. So here I'm trying to decide the height, and it was a bit of a struggle, I have to say, but I think we end up settling for the windows that you see now. And I actually realized later, like, when I did those windows, I was like, oh, I really want to do those trellis, so it kind of distracts from that wall being really empty. And then I just completely go on a side trail, even though I was working on the bathroom, of decorating the backyard. And then I think there's actually a clip of this on my channel on Twitch where I'm like, oh, that's how I got distracted. Because at one point I realized how I ended going from the bathroom to the backyard, because I just lost my trail of thought. I didn't realize I was working on the bathroom. And then all of a sudden I found myself working on the backyard. And this happens to me. Please tell me, like, let me know in the comments down below if I'm the only one who has this in Sims building. Are you a person that builds like room per room and then sticks to a room until it's finished? Or are you one of the people that just jumps all over when you're building? Like every time you see something, you kind of just hop there? Because I'm so that person, and I started noticing this, especially in editing this video down. I hop from room to room every 3 seconds. It's kind of annoying. But I guess that's just my creative process. And I mean, hey, it works. Eventually I do end up finishing the build. In case you're wondering what on earth I'm doing here, we had this person that came with a raid on Twitch, who actually doesn't know The Sims, but ever since has been hanging out with us quite a lot. Is absolutely wonderful person in chat. But since they don't know anything about The Sims, they kept like making suggestions on things I should put in the backyard of items that we don't have. One of their suggestions was, oh, wait, you know what you should really add in the corner? A doghouse. And I was like, crap, that's actually a really cute idea. I love the idea of having a doghouse, but we don't have it. Like, we don't actually have a doghouse in The Sims, which I still think we should have. I think you can download it SCC. I've actually never really looked for it. But then at first I was like, no, I'm so sorry, we don't have that. So really nice idea, but I can't do that. And then I was like, hold on a minute. What if I try to make one? What if I kind of challenge myself creatively and see if I can actually make a doghouse? Luckily, we had some other Simmers hanging out in chat that could help me with like how to get a roof onto a half wall. So you kind of have to place it on the right height next to it and then drag it over. It was a bit of a hassle. Like this chunk of the video is quite long, especially if you consider that this video is sped up 600%. Like that's how long it took to get this roofing and the placement right. It was definitely a bit of a hassle, but it was so worth it because I think in the end, it turns out so cute and it is functional because we use the pet door from Cats and Dogs pack. And actually your dog can go in it and there's like this little nice sleeping mat for your dog. And I think it ends up looking so cute. And I am 100% sure I'm gonna do this more often in my builds. Also, maybe like get even more creative. Like obviously now it's just a cube with a small roof, but I think now that I know this trick, I can do so much more with this. And I think it turned out so cute. I love that there's like, it's actually functional. There's a little feeding bowl next to it. There's like some toys. I end up putting like this cute little paw prints in front to even make it look more like a dog actually walked out of there with dirty paws or something. And we put a tree above, so it's kind of in the shade. And I really liked how this turned out. It was really fun that someone just mentioned something. And at first I was like, oh no, you can't do that in The Sims. And then I was like, yeah, but you know what? Let me just try, because sometimes literally your own creative limit is just your own mind. And I think in The Sims, I tend to sometimes get stuck into, oh, this is the building tool we have, so we can't do X, Y, and Z in The Sims. But actually then when I stop to think about it, there are more possibilities. And I think that's exactly what creative building is about. And I think people like, for instance, Kate Emerald are really good at this, of seeing something that they have in The Sims and completely transforming it into something else, allowing us to do things like round pools or dog houses, for example, which I think is really, really cool. You also saw me try earlier to put in front like a mailbox with a bike against it. I'm from the Netherlands, I'm Dutch, so it kind of became this running gag that I always have to have a bike in my builds. And I tend to lean it against the mailbox because I think it looks really cute. But I'm a Dutchie. I hate biking myself, but we do bike a lot. So we figured why not always make sure that there's always a bike in my build, so that every time someone plays in one of my builds or you download it, you can always kind of just know that there will be a bike because it was built by a Dutchie. And I've been doing this for the past 6 or 7 months. And I think it's really funny that there's just this like small little Easter egg of, obviously more people have bikes in their builds. It's not like it's just me, but I like the idea of that. It's kind of like my signature these days. So yeah, in case you ever download one of my builds and you find a bike in front, just know that that's mainly the reason that I do that. And I really enjoy it. I really like it. And I highly recommend, if you love building in The Sims, like to find this small thing. I know that someone, I don't remember exactly who, but they always hide like a small yellow rubber duck into their build. I just think it's such a fun thing to kind of personalize your build and kind of put your signature on it, kind of like a painting or something. So I think that's really fun. Here you also see me creating the bathroom. I wanted to make it look really lived in. I like over cluttering my houses. That might also be why this house took me so long. This house isn't a big house. It's just two bedrooms, 1 bathroom, small living room, small kitchen, like a hobby room in the garage, but not much more. Like I could have probably done this in way less time that I spend on it. But I always have this when my houses are really small. I'm like, why not clutter it a lot? Because it's a small house anyways. Like if you try to clutter a really big house, it just takes forever. So you kind of lose your motivation. But if you're doing a house that is relatively small, just continuing to clutter is kind of easy because, well, you have the time because it's, you know, there's not much space to clutter. So then I tend to go overboard with my cluttering. You might see that. Also, this is the first time that I noticed that the wardrobe breaks. I think I cut out the other 5 times that I tried to fix it because eventually I was just so done. But yeah, again, if you download this build and there's stuff missing here, I'm so sorry. I really did my best. I also try to, when I'm decorating a house, like come up with some ideas of Sims that could live here. And I always end up making houses like really colorful or very specific, which in a sense, I feel like if you download my builds and you want to play in it, could be really nice, but it could also really clash with the storyline that you're telling. Like I end up making this absolutely lovely, but very pink, like salmon-y pink bedroom for the kid in this house. So I think if you download this build, feel free to take the creative liberty as well to just completely change the decor and just use the shell. I sometimes also upload my builds without any furnishings in it, especially my base game builds. I try to also upload an empty version simply because I know that if you use the houses for gameplay, it makes sense that you want to, I don't know, decorate it in a way that it fits your Sims that you're playing with, like your storyline, or I don't know, maybe you're living there with 7 kids and I only put 1 bed. So I always try to keep in mind that if people want to play my builds, that either it's very playable, so I try to also playtest my builds. Sometimes still things break. I always try to do my best though to playtest them. But like on one hand, give them a lot of personality for people that want to play in them directly, and they actually, so I've heard people that use my houses as like a basis for their storyline, which I think is so cool and so sweet. But on the other hand, I always try to make like a neutral version as well. This house unfortunately does not have a neutral version. I forgot, or I don't know, I think it was because I was doing it on stream. Didn't really think about uploading an empty version of the house. But if you do want an empty version, feel free to let me know. I can see if I can like delete all of the stuff, but also feel free to just download it and delete all of the interior and clutter, or maybe change up some rooms. I can imagine you might need some skill building items if you want to play in this. But yeah, I do always try to take playability of a build kind of into mind. That you can see that in things like I try to always decorate the outer walls rather than the inner walls, because at least I'm a person. I'm not sure about you. Feel free to let me know in the comments. I know that like my recent TikTok actually sparks a little bit of conversation around this, of like, are you a player that plays with the walls completely down, half up, or up? I'm definitely a half down player, because I want to see my own decorations. That's why I decorate the outside walls, because those are the ones that you see. The walls on the inside, if you download my builds, they tend to be kind of empty because I never see them. I tend to even build with the walls half up, like, because I just don't bother about those inner walls. Sometimes I remember them and I put something on there, but I think like 99% of the time, I decorate even with the walls half down because I know I'm not going to see them if I play in the house. But please let me know how you approach this because I'm really curious. But that's one of the ways that I try to make my builds really playable, because like no matter what corner you look from or like what angle you look from, I try to make them look really cute if you're actually playing in it, considering or assuming that you're playing with the walls half down. But I really like that. And I think it's also something that people on my Twitch stream have been saying, is that they really like it how the way that I decorate makes my builds look like really lived in, and like really as if a family or someone is living there and the house is being used, like it looks really homey. And I thought that was one of the sweetest compliments I ever got because that's kind of the vibe I'm going for. But it's nice to know that, you know, the vibe is actually getting across. Here you also see me struggle, by the way, I just noticed, with like salon tables or coffee tables. Can we take a moment to realize why do we have only ginormous tables? I always end up sizing them down, but there's just this one from Dream Home Decorator that is a normal size. And I placed it and I was like, oh, that's the right size, but the style isn't completely correct for this house. I want something that is a little bit more rustic, I think. But it just, none of them. Like all of them are at least double the size of the Dream Home Decorator one. And I just don't get why The Sims knows what size works because they made it. Like, they made it for the Dream Home Decorator one, but then all of the other ones are ginormous. And the same goes for the desk that you see here. Like, the desk that I use is from Snowy Escape, but all of the other desks were like slightly bigger. This desk it's still not a single tile desk, but it's a smaller 2-tile desk. And I don't get why there's like a difference. Why is there a smaller and a bigger one? And if they know that there's a difference, why do they not make more smaller ones? Because actually, especially in homes that are normally sized and not the gigantic apartments in The Sims or gigantic homes in The Sims, you tend to kind of need to put stuff in smaller spaces. So I don't get why they don't make more of that, because that would make a lot of sense. But yeah, that's just stuff that I run into on a daily basis as a builder. I'm not sure if you recognize this struggle. But yeah, here you just see me clutter more and more. I kind of feel like I keep cluttering. Also, you'll see me do that later in the kitchen. I like built the basic layout of the kitchen, and then I take out all of the clutter that I want to add, and then I decide which location I want to add it to. I think that's a general trend, especially of this build in particular. The amount of clutter is, I think this is one of the most cluttered builds I've ever created. Let's just put it at that. But I hope that you enjoy it. I think it's mostly because we recently got like clutter packs and like multiple clutter packs, like bathroom clutter pack, everyday clutter pack. They work, okay? And I'm just slightly obsessed. I also feel like this is a very rambly voiceover. Just let me know if this is something that you like. I didn't really come into this with a plan. I just felt like, oh, I created this build over on stream and it might actually be nice to share it with you guys on YouTube as well. But I mean, it's a 30-minute video, so I'm kind of just sat here rambling on, watching the speed build back as I kind of tell you guys about what my thought process was. Feel free to let me know if this is something that you enjoy, or if this is something that you just prefer, like maybe a build video with a short introduction on the general idea and then just some music in the background and then just kind of you vibing to it. Feel free to let me know which one of you prefer. I can totally do both. I can also stop talking and like add some lo-fi music and then kind of just let you vibe to the building process. But I usually do that. I tend to do like a shorter voiceover on my speed build videos and then kind of just let it go, if that makes any sense. Like I just put some lo-fi music and then put in some screenshots and that's it. So let me know if you like these more rambly videos, because it's kind of fun to do them, even though I don't necessarily know what to tell you in each part of the build, because I have this feeling that I'm constantly just repeating myself, like, oh, hey, look, I'm cluttering again, because I clutter a lot. Look at me, here, I'm cluttering again. Yeah, that's kind of my build process, so I hope that you like it. I will also, by the way, I just realized, make sure to put some pictures somewhere in the video. I'm not sure if I can put it in the beginning or if I should put it up on the screen right now, but like of the original build or the thing that we're recreating, if you saw it in the beginning of the video, then I have decided to put it there. And this is the part where I'm realizing that I should have done that. But then you can at least kind of see like the resemblance of the original build compared to what I decided to go for. I think one of the funniest things was that in the front of the house, there was this very specific blue car. And now that I just see it from the corner of my eye, like kind of in the corner of the screen behind the kitchen, we found the exact same blue car in The Sims. Like, we don't even have cars in The Sims, it's just a debug object. But I just found it so hilarious that we don't even have cars in The Sims, and somehow I managed to find that identical car that was in the picture of the house that we were trying to replicate. I thought that was just really, really funny. Also, I can talk you guys through like the cluttering process of my kitchens. So like I mentioned before, I kind of just scroll through the catalog and take out everything that I think I want to add to my kitchen. The reason I do it like this is because I feel like kitchens tend to come with quite a lot of clutter. Like compared to a lot of other rooms, I tend to use a lot of clutter in my kitchens because the most like functional objects is just your stove and your sink and your fridge, and then you're kind of done. Like that's all you need in a kitchen for it to be functional. So all of the other sort of ambience or life comes from you cluttering your kitchens. So what I always do is I kind of just scroll through. I tend to start with the cluttering or decoration section in like the kitchen category, but I've noticed that the sorting on that is a little bit wonky and it doesn't show everything that I want. So then I tend to go to the actual clutter category in like the menu that you see now, where you can kind of select decorations and then clutter. And then I do two things. I do clutter and wall decorations, and I kind of just scroll through both of them. This is also where you see that I extended the menu because it allows me to scroll a little bit easier. And then I kind of just go through and drag everything out of the catalog that I might potentially want to add in this kitchen. And I just plop it down wherever. As you can see here, I put it on the table, I put it on some counters. And then I think at one point I start to realize either do I have enough clutter or do I want more? And then I start actually deciding the locations. Like that's what I'm doing here. I'm finding the location for the clutter. The good thing about this is that you don't find one thing, pick a location, then have to go back to the catalog, try to find the next thing, pick a location. Like cluttering takes so much time in The Sims that this is one of the ways that I found it makes it a little bit more efficient, which also brings me to having like enough patience to make my builds really cluttered. One of the tricks I love to do is actually put like the pot, it comes from the cottage living pack, like put it on the stove. Your stove is still completely functional. It looks a little bit silly from time to time when your Sims are actually using it because they tend to put stuff like that intersects with that pot. But I really like it. I thought it looked really cute to have it like on the stove and just sat there. Because it makes the house look lived in. Same story here. You can see the little like washing bin, laundry. It's not called laundry. What is it? Dishes. That's the word I was looking for. Like the little laundry. No, I say it wrong again. The little dishes thing next to the sink. And then with the clutter pack, we have these cups that kind of look used. And I love just putting them there because it makes it look like someone still needs to do the dishes. So yeah, stuff like that is just what I try to keep in mind when I'm cluttering my builds. Also, I use a lot of the like trick of using 9 and 0 to lower and raise items, or using your square bracket keys on your keyboard to make items bigger or smaller. I definitely use a lot of BB Move objects. I actually have a whole video on how to create good clutter in The Sims. I'll make sure to link it down below in case you're watching this video and thinking like, oh crap, I really want to learn how to do that, but this goes a little bit fast and I don't know how to follow. I'll make sure to link it down below. That is, by the way, part of a whole series called The Builder's Bootcamp, which I think, like from the top of my head, is 16 episodes of just all things building in The Sims. It literally takes you through the whole building UI up until the point of how to create good clutter. It touches upon stairs, on roofing, basically everything. So I'll make sure to maybe link the whole playlist of the Builder's Bootcamp in the description of this video. Because in case you also want to get better at building in The Sims, or you're like really new to the game and you don't really know how to do certain things, I highly recommend watching that. I took a lot of time to kind of go through all of the steps in building. Because I see it in my Twitch streams a lot where people are like, hey, how did you do that? Or, oh my god, that's so cool, I didn't know you could do that in The Sims. And it's just, I don't always have the time, like either on a YouTube video or on my Twitch streams, to fully go in depth of like all of the tips and tricks that I have in my head for The Sims. I always try to give them on the fly, but sometimes it's just easier to do it in like an in-depth YouTube video. So I made sure to record that so you guys can use it for whenever you want. This is also, by the way, where we're kind of getting to the end of the video. I'm doing some final decorations, and I'll make sure to add some screenshots of the build of like the final result after my voiceover rambly. Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you want to see more content like this, I also do a lot of CC videos, and I do my own Let's Play, so feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what your thoughts were on the video. And I would love to also see you over on Twitch, so feel free to join, and see you on the next one. Bye, everyone!